What's up? Welcome to a new episode of Movie Schmovie. This is episode number 314. 314. Also, my wife's birthday. That's not today, but happy early birthday, Aaron. We're basically halfway around the sun. So I'm
that
like happy.
That would be pie too, right?
Pie. She loves pie, and that's her birth. Yeah, it's a good day for her all around.
Yeah.
That's not today again, or this episode. It just feels right to say, we are kind of halfway there. She's getting all these coupons like, hey, happy birthday.
Oh,
So I
wow.
figured I'd just kind of go in on it on the podcast and say happy birthday too.
But I mean, like, we should have done like pie themed content for this episode, like favorite pie scenes from.
Is there anything
movies.
better than Stand By Me?
I was going to say, is there another, when you say
Is there?
favorite pie scenes, I was
Yeah.
going to say what movie jumps to all of our minds, but I guess Steve and I already know. What, Ronald, would you have said Stand By Me or would you have said something else?
What was the? Hold on, say that again.
Like favorite pie related scene in a movie. Oh, there's one other, I guess, that people
American
might.
Pie.
Yeah.
I would say American Pie is the other
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
American.
Well, we
Pie.
got it covered. At least
Yeah.
we're like covering all the
Covered the
classic pie
spread,
movie.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So to
So
speak.
yeah, welcome to 314. I'm here. My name's Steve. I'm one of the co-hosts. As always, I'm with.
I'm wrong.
And I'm John.
And again, this is another podcast, another week, and we're going to be talking about some movies that we saw, some TV shows, maybe talk about some movie news, some box office performance. I feel like it's like a through line in this day and age that we live in. It's like, especially because of the Shang-Chi of it all and the news recently about Iger's comments about the release. And, I think we should probably start the podcast because it is a big news item, talking a little bit about how Shang-Chi did in its release this past weekend. It had the long Labor Day 4-day weekend. And I don't know who wants to tell our listeners about how Shang-Chi did.
RJ.
It did really well. 70. It's like
There you go.
70
We're done. We covered
That's it. We're covered. End of
70
conversation.
75 million on between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which is
Right.
incredible. And I have to say something. I want to asterisk beside kind of the conversation we're having. I wasn't saying it, that I thought that things were going to fail because of the quality of the film. And I don't think this is any indication that this is the box office is back. And, every movie that is of quality will receive this sort of number.
Right.
But
I wonder.
you wonder?
I think this was I don't think a Marvel movie that represents a first for all kinds of representationists. I mean, I feel like that's not a clean test case for what's going to
right.
perform at the box office. I don't think that number would have been as high if this weren't Marvel and if this wasn't a movie that people were like, let's get out and support this movie.
Right.
If we're going to support any movie right now, and I know that was my thinking when I took my family to see it just a couple days ago. So Shang-Chi rocks, and that number definitely reflects, I think, an audience response that makes a lot of sense to me. Like after hearing that number and then going to see it, I was definitely like, okay, this is like one of those good Marvel movies. This has that Black Panther-y kind of feeling of they've opened up a whole, I mean, I'm not for the obvious comparison. I just mean like it's a new storyline that's like almost like a different kind of fantasy film. And I just think this is a movie that audiences will latch onto, and it's a shame that it's coming out in this strange way, but I do think that number reflects like there's both legitimate curiosity about this movie, and I think like the word is just going to be strong about this one. It's hard to picture the person who goes to see this and has a bad time. Some people might not think it's great. Some people might, there's some clunky moments of exposition or whatever because they have to set up a lot, but in general this is one of those winners for Marvel.
There's some like combo news in this too, man. After the reception of this movie, Sony made a move that surprised the shit out of me. They moved Venom Let There Be Carnage from the 15th of October to the 1st of October. So I guess they're trying to get some of that juju, some of that spillage of juju from the reception of Shang-Chi. Which it, I don't know about
I mean, I think for how wrong as it came off, like whatever Bob Iger said, I do think that the Shang-Chi release in theaters, the exclusive day and without a day and date, just only in theaters, a big comic book movie, blockbuster filmmaking, all that good stuff. I do think it is a litmus test in some ways for studios that are deciding whether or not they think they can release their movie still this year. And, movies like Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, movies like Bond, Bond even came out and they kind of solidified that it is opening October 8th. Like, it's not moving, so this movie performing so well, and, hitting all these things that, like Ronald and John have been talking about, it's like biggest 3-day opening over Labor Day, biggest 4-day Labor Day opening, fastest movie of the pandemic era to hit 100 million. It did it in 5 days. It's already passed it. There's a lot of metrics that this movie is setting that is inspiring to the theatrical exhibition industry. So like these studios that have been kind of hanging on to these movies, like I'm saying, it is just a feather in their cap to say, you know what, like we can probably try to go for this and make this work. And I don't know that I kind of agree with what Rana was saying maybe a little earlier about, like, I don't know that these movies are going to perform to this level because this film inherits a lot from, the MCU and the legacy of those movies and the fan base that it's built, not to mention what Disney Plus has been doing for their shows to kind of keep Marvel, on people's minds at all times. But, I do think that, a movie like Venom 2 or Bond, like, I think it's just reassuring to them that it is possible to hit and go past that 30 million mark that we've been talking about on this podcast a lot recently.
Yeah.
Because, a movie like Candyman still does well, exceeds expectations. The drop for a second week for that was pretty good last weekend, even against a movie like Shang-Chi, which is competing audiences, competing demos. I think it dropped right around 50%, which is pretty good for a horror movie in the second week, especially compared to some other ones that have come out here during the pandemic. But, I just think it's a huge win, like for everybody involved, with specifically Shang-Chi, like regardless of what the theatrical looks like, regardless of what Sony or MGM or whoever is benefiting from this vote of confidence. I just I'm just so happy to see, all the filmmakers, the cast, the crew, Marvel, like whoever is involved with this movie, they went through a lot to get this movie out. This movie kind of shut down during production during the pandemic, finished it, it's bounced around a bit, and it's gotten all this publicity about the comments that Iger made. And I love how its star has kind of like taken offense to it and really kind of fired up people to, like John said, to support something, and it should be this right now. Yeah. And, it's just really great to see everybody in a lot of ways rallying around it. The other thing I saw, which is amazing and in line with what John said, because I haven't seen it yet, but it's like the highest scored audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes of any of the MCU movies.
Yeah.
Like Insane. A Cinema score, crazy good critic score. People seem to be loving this movie. And we've all just been like so excited to see it, outperform everything. And it's just so good to see it do that. And
it is the trailer. If you see the trailer and you think, well, that looks good, good news. There's a movie that feels like that trailer and then some. Right. There's fantastic action in it. There's a couple. This is going to sound strange, but just the cinematic feeling, like I got goosebumps when the Marvel fanfare started up, like when In the Dark, trailers that were playing before it were trailers I'd seen before. So nothing really knocked my socks off, but I did notice that they're pushing the Eternals. They didn't have like a Spider-Man trailer attached. So I was back to our point of a couple weeks ago. I really think they dropped that Spider-Man trailer to get it out of the way and to get the sort of speculation, changing into hype mode for that movie. And then leave it there, because I haven't seen much of a peep about that movie since they dropped the trailer. And I really think Shang-Chi has been getting, every day I see some new headline about something like Feige said about how bullish he is on this movie. And it feels bullish. Like this movie feels like, you used the word confidence about like something a minute ago, Steve, related to this, but this movie itself has a confidence to it. It has a swagger to it. This is like, it might be the best of the kind of the best structured of the kind of origin stories, because it puts you in a story where you're moving forward and you're getting flashbacks. So you're finding out about this world and all these characters, but it just works on its own to the extent that you realize like, oh, wow, if this didn't have the Marvel connection, this is like a whole new fantasy realm. I mean, it reminded me in ways of Black Panther, but also like Lord of the Rings and that kind of thing, where it's got this huge mythos and this huge backdrop to it, and these characters are larger than life, and the evil that they're fighting is something ancient. And how it connects to the MCU, the way they do that part, the way they get you excited for that at the end is really just like, okay, wow, they did it. You know, they created something new and they looped it into what we love, and now I'm totally like down with, just like when they do one of these movies, what's the first thing you think is like, oh, I'm down to see him pop up and bounce off of some of these other characters that we love. And the supporting cast is fantastic too. Awkwafina comes off great. Michelle Yeoh has some great stuff to do. I don't know the actress that plays, there's another character that's really prominent in this. I think that from the moment I heard that fanfare, I felt like, oh, this feels kind of good to be sitting here watching a Marvel movie, to the moment there's a bit of hand-to-hand combat at one point that's just shot really well and keep fast cuts, and it keeps cutting, and you can tell it's actual, at least stuntmen, if not the actors doing it. Right. And I got choked up. I was like, I don't think I've ever gotten choked up at like fight choreography before. It was some combination of like, oh, this is just that movie magic. And it felt so good to be sitting there in a dark room and seeing it giant and hearing it loud. And it has all the usual Marvel movie touches that some people might like, the style and the kind of housey, you know, that kind of slightly gray look that everything, it's got those little elements to it that make you feel like, oh, if someone doesn't like a Marvel movie, they might not be convinced by this. But this really did feel kind of special, to that way that when you're leaving, you're just kind of, I don't know, we just felt good. It was like, it did feel like, okay, I can totally see how, you know, audiences would respond well to this. And I hope it got some bump out of that weekend. But I also think we can expect a lot of movies to do well the first week in this climate, and then we'll see how much staying power we have. But this is the kind of movie that feels like it would have staying power, just because it's one of those, you know, like I said, a very, very confident Marvel movie. And when you guys have seen it, we can talk about all the little things that are imperfect about it, or moments that we like. But as far as just, does this work? We've had that question of how are they going to do that? How are they going to introduce a new character, a new world, and make it feel right? This is that kind of, whatever excitement we felt like we were lacking from Black Widow or something. This kind of restores that feeling of like, okay, this is a Marvel movie that's kind of firing on all cylinders again. So
that's really cool, man.
And feels like a step forward. Feels like new, set in the aftermath of what we know. It's not really throwing back to anything. Like, it really resists all the connections that you usually get, which feel almost like hedging their bets. Right. It saves those moments when it mentions stuff that we know from before. So
cool.
I really enjoyed it.
Nice. I can't wait to see it.
Can't wait.
Oh boy. And the good thing about that movie is that like it's got a bit of a runway right now, because like Ronald mentioning that Venom coming out, that, what is it? It's the 1st of October.
Yeah.
I mean, it has almost a month of like, kind of runway for any true competition.
Yeah.
So we'll really see what kind of legs it has and the kind of multiplier that it has going into the upcoming weekends. But yeah, man, can't wait to see it. All right. So what's next? What are we gonna talk about next?
Matrix, maybe?
Matrix trailer. Yeah. Teaser.
Yeah, let's mention that. Yeah, that teaser was pretty cool. I can't believe that they like kept that domain alive for 3 years, whatever. I mean, I don't know how long before the first one they had it, but that website's been up for that long.
Yes. And
the whatisthematrix.com site.
What is the Matrix? And when you go there and choose a pill, it has 188,000 clips.
Yeah.
I don't even understand how that's even possible.
I don't know that we're supposed to. I don't know. It's just like
what?
Well, I mean, what is the Matrix? I mean,
what
that's
is the
point,
Matrix?
Right? What
We're
is it? I mean, what is right? Exactly.
What'd you guys think of it? The teaser that, I guess, it's premiering. The actual trailer is premiering
tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow, yeah.
Well, we're recording this on Wednesday. I think the teaser comes out on Thursday, right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Did I read that right?
Yeah. But
I'm very curious to see the teaser. I mean, like, I think these little clips that we've gotten, these little like promos promoting the teaser, are, kind of these standard, like, there's enough there to kind of like get you excited or kind of like just amp up the anticipation. But beyond like that, I mean, hearing, people talk about the clips that were shown at CinemaCon a few weeks ago, and kind of just the general want that I have to see this movie, because I like The Matrix, the original Matrix is one of my favorite movies. And, I just love the idea of so many people being involved with it that were kind of through it or with it through the way. And
yeah,
I just think Keanu is in this like amazing space right now, and I feel like people love him and want him to be successful. And I mean, to see him go back to, a beloved character like this, especially again, like he's at this like peak of this resurgence with the John Wicks of it all and everything. I'm very curious to see, what the storyline is, and to see how these new characters. You see glimpses in these little promos of like Jonathan Groff and Yaya, and just like these. You can see Carrie Ann Moss, obviously, a quick shot of her, and I don't know, man. I just hope that somewhere in there, Hugo Weaving pops up. I've heard he's not in it, but I would love to see him pop up in this movie somewhere.
Me too, man.
Yeah, he acted like he didn't get the call or whatever. In some
yeah. One of those things.
Which we like almost always turns out to be that they, I don't know. I guess it's actually about 50-50 when I think about it. Sometimes it really is like, oh, that was a rumor. And sometimes it really is like, oh no, they just were sitting on that. Like, and Andrew Garfield right now,
that's the big one. Yeah.
Hasn't gotten the call, doesn't know anything about Spider-Man. But no, I don't know. I find that interesting. Like, I think Matrix as a brand, it still has some weight, still has some promise of something that might kind of dazzle people. I think people's animosity towards those sequels I think it's cooled a little bit in recent years. I think a lot of these franchises or so-called disappointing conclusions or whatever we've gotten, I think people over the years, it kind of filters down to, well, who's really giving it a chance and who really likes it or likes the story or wants to enjoy the ideas, even if the execution was wonky or whatever. But I feel like I feel like that was a strange trajectory, the way those Matrix movies went in terms of people's excitement about them. And I always thought clearly they were building out the universe. The Wachowskis were building out the universe in a way that maybe didn't get totally fulfilled or not fulfilled in the way that they had intended. So yeah, coming back to this doesn't feel like, oh boy, what is there to go back to? This feels like there's a lot of ideas to play with, but it's just like, what form will it take? What will that story be? Is it going to hook people like the first one? Or is it going to feel kind of like, I don't know, a thought experiment or a thought exercise, the way the latter ones ended up. So I don't know. I'm very curious about it. I have a feeling that they're going to try to get people really revved up about this series again, because nowadays, isn't that what everybody's trying to do? Is like, like start up a franchise that they can then do all this. Cause now there's all these places to do what the Wachowskis seems like they would have done, an HBO Max series, this or that. Like there's all these different ways that the franchises are kind of spread across different platforms and stuff. So the Matrix feels in that way like a kind of very modern franchise, even, just because it had like Animatrix and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And mythology that was outside the movies that you had to watch this or play this game to understand some of the implications. And I think that's, whether it annoys people or not, that definitely seems to be what the big companies are trying to do, right? Is all that integration.
Yeah. Definitely. What about you, Ronald? Are you looking forward to this or what? Where are you at?
I think I've been trying to get my just action fix in, and maybe towards the end of the podcast, I'll tell you about a show that I've been watching, a fill that fix. But yeah, I love the fact that one of the Wachowskis, Lana's taking it on. I'm glad that it hasn't been lost, because sometimes it feels like when something new comes around, somebody else is taking it on. I love that one of them is at least trying to take the mantle again, and maybe we'll get kind of what people are expecting from the third one, which was just to a lot of people the one, out of the vitriol that seems to be the one that makes people legitimately punch whatever's around them when they talk about it. And this feels like some redemption. Even just looking at the trailer, this feels better than that movie did. The third one felt weird from the jump. Like I was just like, what's happening? Even in the first 5 minutes of it. So I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to it. And it's on HBO Max. Jesus Christ! Like
Crazy.
What a deal. I mean, like, I don't, maybe we'll talk about the implications of this, but it's pretty cool that we're getting Dune, we're getting Matrix, we're getting Malignant, that we'll probably talk about next week. It feels weird to get these level movies at home when people are actually being able to go to theaters right now in some way, shape, or form.
Two things I want to pick up about what you said. One is just a real quick note. Did either of you see the little headline about Denis Villeneuve has said he's ready to start shooting Dune 2? Does that feel like wishful thinking? Does that feel like him just putting it out there, like reminding people, hey, remember this was supposed to be a big franchise. There was supposed to be another one.
The reviews I've been hearing, the early reviews, I think there's a lot going on.
No, I don't doubt that the movie might be excellent. What I'm saying is what we were saying like before about the tough sell. Oh, the reviews have not been positive.
This is not a movie that people are going to go see. Like,
that's what we were saying before, is that we don't see how this, like, unlike James Bond, unlike The Matrix, unlike what we were talking about a second ago, the Venom 2. This is not a brand that is, if anything, it's a name that pushes. It's like people remember the David Lynch movie being opaque and weird, and no one remembers the sci-fi original series that was supposedly more faithful and that some people like, but also was cheap. So it's like, as great as this material might be, and I do think the movie looks beautiful. There's nothing necessarily hooking people in, but what I'm saying is, like, if the word is, oh, this is such an excellent piece of filmmaking, maybe that gets a certain audience out. But that audience, I feel like, is much more likely to want to watch it at home than to want to go out to the theater. So I do feel like Denis Villeneuve is trying to get ahead of the flop and be like, let's get going. Come on, guys, let's get going with part 2. Because this, but it is unfortunate. I think you mentioned this the last time we talked about it, Steve. It's unfortunate that this seems like it was very much set up to be the first half of a bookend story, that we may not get to the quote unquote good stuff in this movie. So it'll be very frustrating if it fizzles. But I think we already kind of covered this in a previous segment.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just I've heard that about Dune, like the idea of, like, it being very much. I mean, the reviews have been really good, and I had no doubt that I'm probably gonna love this movie. And but that it does feel like the first half of something, as a film. So I mean, I think it's gonna suffer from that, in some ways to some people. But I do think, I'll be honest with you, I'll be very surprised if they don't finish this Dune, part 2. I mean, like, I feel like Warner Brothers, especially through the whole pandemic PR mess that they went through, like, they've kind of like lost probably a relationship with Christopher Nolan over Tenet in some ways, and I think that, like, they probably want to try to not do that as much as possible. So I mean, even if it's a loss, I mean, I think I kind of would be really surprised if he does not get to make the second part, especially if the movie ends up having any kind of, like, Oscar campaign or Oscar run for whatever categories it might be eligible for, or attention getting. But the other one was, I just saw some reviews starting to drop today, and when we were about to record for Halloween Kills, and like a lot of reviews, or a couple of them that I read, because it debuted out at Venice. And some of the reviews are dropping today. I saw IGN drop it, and somebody else making the same kind of comment. Like, the difference is, I think that those movies are already shot, but, like, this idea of, like, these movies coming out that really do need a last entry, or a second or a third entry, or whatever the idea or the plan was, where, Halloween Kills reviews have been really good for that too. Those have come out, but it's kind of distracting to continue to see it mentioned that, like, this feels like the middle piece of something, or this feels like the first half of something. I'm like, right. But I mean, like, you kind of know that already. Like, were you expecting to go in to see a movie that's the middle of a trilogy to say, oh, this is the end of the trilogy? Like, I have trouble reading that sometimes. Because I feel like, maybe that's a fault to the filmmaker that, the movie doesn't work on that level. But, I think it's interesting that there's a couple instances of this kind of floating around the internet right now, movies that, may not get to be made, like, a second part of, and movies that already have a second part or a third part in the Halloween, David Gordon Green's Halloween trilogy case. Like, the movie's done, I think. Like, it's already shot and done, like, it's coming out next year. Like, it's whatever. But it'll be interesting to see how, all these movies do. I think Halloween's going to do really well. And I really am excited to see that. as I am for Dune, and hopefully, if the world levels out some, I'll be able to see him in a theater. I don't know. We'll see.
The other thing I wanted to pick up, Ronald, is why wait? Why not segue into the action show you've been watching? Because you just brought up action, that you need to hit that action fix. While we're on the subject, tell us the action show you've been watching.
You talk about some Asian representation, man.
Let's talk about it.
Showtime has a show that I've seen stuff about forever, and I have been sleeping, and I feel shitty because I haven't championed this show. I didn't watch it, and now I'm starting to get into it. Between Warrior and Gangs of London, two of the best shows I've witnessed through my eyes in the past year and a half. Warrior it's sensitive, it's interesting, it makes you look at America in a really interesting way. And it just, if you aren't ready to go see Shang-Chi right now, go see Warrior on Showtime. It is, the action is unreal, right? Like, the action's really good, the story's really good. It kind of feels like Gangs in New York. And it's about a gentleman that comes to America seeking something or someone, and he joins a gang called the Hot Boys, and they're an organization that pretty much has become a gang because racism would destroy them otherwise. And it's everything, man.
I've heard really good things about this show.
Oh my god!
So just to clarify real quick, it's Cinemax, not Showtime.
Oh, I confused it too.
Cinemax. Yeah, so Cinemax first two seasons, then Cinemax stopped their original programming, then HBO Max picked it up, and HBO Max is now in production on a third season. Comes out. That comes out, I think, next year next year or 2023.
So HBO Max is taking it over.
Yes. There was like a fan petition, I remember, like, because I've listened to the showrunner he's been on a couple podcasts I listened to. Who is it that is the guy I keep talking to? Jonathan Tropper, I think is his name.
Okay.
I think that's the one. He was basically saying that, like, it's a pretty well watched show when Cinemax was still doing their original program.
Yeah,
like it was one of their higher rated shows,
and it's good martial arts. It's not bullshit. It's not like, so I've heard some mixed bags about this. This is not me attacking Shang-Chi, but I've heard some complaints that, like, it's not on the level of like raid level action, which is. I don't know why somebody would ever say that.
Well, it's not as visceral as that, but right. I think for a Marvel movie, it has better like fight choreography than you normally get. But I think, when you compare it to something like The Raid, no, it doesn't touch the sort of, like, it hurts to watch the way that fighting does, but it's got some of that elegance in terms of where they choose to put the camera. And like I said, moving bodies, but I think the asterisk for a Marvel movie is there for a lot of these things, so
so it's not a knock on Shang-Chi or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, if you want to watch a movie, a show that has really good action, a continual storyline, and some cool commentary on America and how it treats its citizens. It's worth checking out, man. It's beautifully shot too, but the action
and the both of those first seasons, I'm just checking HBO Max. It's on HBO Max now. For those who want to watch it, HBO Max.
I wasn't even watching it on HBO Max. Now I'm going to continue watching the rest of it on HBO Max. Wow. Yeah. So yes, please, I implore you, please watch that show. It is unreal. So yeah. Thanks,
okay. Andrew Koji. Okay, he was Storm Shadow in Snake Eyes. He's the star.
That's right. I knew I recognized him. Yes. Okay, that's right.
Cool. Okay, well, that just moved up my list. I need to watch that now. It's been in my queue on HBO Max when I saw it drop on there.
Whew.
And
Steve, don't sleep. John, don't sleep.
You got it. I'm on it.
You'll enjoy it.
All right. let's pivot out, I guess, from some of these conversations. We do have a feature review that we're going to be going over this week. John, you weren't able to see it because of some technical issue. Okay.
Nope, some problem with the screener link that I got.
But Ronald and I were able to check out a new movie coming out today when this podcast drops, called Queenpins. This movie is based on a true story film about a 2012 counterfeit coupon ring or scheme that was run out of 3 women's homes in Arizona. And this is like, the movie version of it, starring Kristen Bell and who else is in there? Paul Walter Hauser,
Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn. Who? Can't remember the girl who plays the neighbor. Let me look her up real quick. Sorry,
she's British.
Yeah, she's in.
I didn't mean to say it like that. She's also on Veronica Mars. She's British.
She's British.
Because I feel like when I said that, I felt like Sam Jackson, who was like complaining about British actors.
Yeah, I recognize her from. She
was on Veronica Mars, right?
She was, but she was also in The Good Place, also with Kristen Bell.
Crazy.
As Simone. Oh, here we go. Kirby Hal Baptiste. I don't know. I reckon she's also in Barry, Killing Eve. She's in a bunch of shows, but she plays the so the movie version of this story. There's like basically 2 people involved, so it's a little different than the true life account. But that's why they can say it's based on a true story. But I mean, basically, it's about this. These 2 women who kind of are living these lives that they're not fully happy with, and they kind of come across this idea. They're extreme couponing pros, or whatever. They are super into couponing, and they kind of come across this idea of these manufacturers' coupons for like free items and a means to get a hold of the duplicates, the also rans, the throwaways of these coupons in this plant where they're made in Mexico. And that is kind of the basis of their scheme and kind of what takes them off on this crazy ride of, accumulating millions and millions of dollars and just insanity, really. Paul Walter Hauser plays like a loss prevention officer for one of the local grocery store chains in the area where they live, who kind of is the first that kind of comes onto this idea. And then, Vince Vaughn gets involved. He's postmaster, or is that what he plays? I guess
he's a postmaster general. Isn't that what he is?
Something like that. Yes, I think that's what he calls it.
An investigator, because like a lot of shit goes through the mail, essentially. Like whether you know it or not, there's a lot of shady dealings with mail.
And that's really, and it's kind of in the trailer even, so it's no spoiler. This story's again based on true story, but that's the crucial part of the story, is that the involvement of the mail is really kind of what leads to the FBI getting the postal service involved, and ultimately their downfall. But
that's what you always hear in a lot of crime stories, is that like the mail makes it federal. Like once you involve the mail, then you've committed a federal crime.
Exactly.
And so it's like then
That's exactly it.
It ups the ante of what they can charge you with and who can be brought in and all that stuff. So yeah, no, it's a fascinating story, and it sounds. I mean, like, is it one of those kind of no one was really harmed in this, and so you can do a kind of light, semi-comedic take on the material? Is it one of those where you kind of come out not hating the bad guys or the good guys, not loving I mean, you know what I'm saying? There's no good guys, there's no bad guys. It's just a bunch of kind of bumblers.
It felt like Pain and Gain without the murders. Like if Pain and Gain didn't have the murders and the script was more tight, like, because this is, to me, feels like one of the tighter scripts I've seen this year. Like it moves really quickly. They establish the rules of everything pretty quickly too. And just for context, man, like, have any of you guys ever worked at a supermarket?
Yes.
Like a farm store, convenience store, not like a chain or anything.
So the time that they're kind of highlighting, I specifically remember I worked at a supermarket, and I remember extreme couponing. Like, I remember people getting caught at my supermarket for like $200 worth of food. But this was like different. This wasn't just free things like the movie. It was like a transaction with one swipe could be brought down to like $15. And I witnessed it. I rang up a couple people, and I've been witness to people being arrested for stuff like that. So like,
Wow.
it felt strange to watch this thing that was an enterprise for some people, and I couldn't help but wonder if they got some coupons from this group. Like it was this, the shady business that kind of started was like, you know, I love how it started where Kristen Bell's character essentially is a couponer that complains about a specific issue that she had, and she was given a coupon for a free item, and then she's like, if this happens with this one thing, then, you know, what if I keep complaining? And where the fuck are they made? And then it just kind of blossoms into this operation that is shady business.
Yeah.
So it's not just like the loophole that like the guy finds in Punch Drunk Love, where he realizes that there's like a giveaway or whatever, where the value of the, what is it, pudding cups in that. So this is an actual like beyond that, like a scam of epic proportions where, but I'm still hearing this and going, I guess that sounds, I guess I get that, but I'm still shocked that it works, you know, that you can actually profit off of this, not just like get more stuff or get more free cookies or whatever. But no,
I mean, and the idea is that like when she, you know, we're not going to talk through the whole movie, but I mean, the idea.
No, tell me everything that happens in every scene.
For profiting off of it is the idea that, you know, her friend Kirby, you know, the actress is Kirby, how her friend JoJo like offers to buy it from her. So that is kind of the genesis of, oh wow, like you'd buy this, but what would you buy it for? Would you buy it for half of the value? Would you buy it for, you know, whatever, you know, the case it was? I can't remember what she said. And that's kind of what sets them on this idea of like, oh, let's spin up a website and we're going to sell these coupons and mail them to people. And, you know, it just kind of spirals from there. But yeah, I kind of agree with Ron. I mean, I thought this was really good. I was surprised how much I liked it. Maybe, I don't know why though. Like, I love everybody involved with it. I like these like kind of fun, kind of quirky, kind of true story, true crime kind of things that, like you said earlier, John, haven't even not seen it. Like, where there really doesn't seem to be a lot of victims, like except for like these massive multi-billion-dollar companies that, you know, ended up suing them and, you know, getting whatever they got. But, you know, it's not like, you know, there are a trail of dead or anything like that. Like, it's a lot lighter than that. And, you know, I think there's also, you know, the cast is great. I think Paul Walter Hauser continues to be like an MVP of most movies that he ever shows up in. And I'd highly recommend following him on Twitter if you don't already. He's a great follow on there, especially you, Ronald, because he is super into wrestling.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Well, did you notice in the movie he was like swiping through AEW stuff?
Yes.
On his phone, like he's hardcore into AEW.
That's crazy because like I saw in the background he's like watching it too. And then there was like a couple posters. Insane.
He's hardcore. He's great in the movie. Like Vince Vaughn's really good. I mean, I think everybody's just really.
They're
so good.
I could see those two. Those guys are both kind of comedy ringers, so I can see them having good chemistry.
Yeah.
Those two kind of sitting in a car on a stakeout of a postal service case, like it's just, those scenes are just great. I mean, like they're just ripping off each other. But yeah, man, I think this movie works. I mean, like it moves really quick. It's a little, you know, it's kind of a little generic in some ways, but I think the chemistry between Connie and JoJo, Kristen Bell, and Kirby's characters really works. I think their friendship really is, it just jumps really quickly and you buy into it immediately. And their support system that they are for one another works through the whole movie. And I think even, you know, the way the movie ends is really fun. And I think that, you know, the kind of way they deal with some of the moral issues of what's happening and the motivations that the characters have for doing what they did, it definitely comes full circle at the end of the movie. And I definitely would recommend checking this out. I know it's got like kind of a weird release pattern. I know it's coming out in certain Cinemark theaters today. Okay. So it'll be out on today, the 10th, for I think 3 weeks. And then on September 30th, is that 3 weeks or 4 weeks? On September 30th, it comes out on Paramount Plus. So if you have Paramount Plus and you want to check it out, it'll be on there at the end of the month. But if you're near Cinemark, like we have a couple here in the Baltimore area, it'll be in theaters today for you to check out if that sounds interesting to you. But Yeah, really, really fun, easy movie to watch. Again,
Yeah, man.
surprised me how much I liked it. Kind of like we were talking about Vacation Friends did. It's kind of in a similar thing of like so easy to watch, so easy to enjoy, and that's all it needs to be. So like I kind of felt that way about this too.
Yeah. See it, please.
What else? What else? What else?
Did anybody watch the Pen 15 animation special thing?
I have
No.
not. No. How was that?
Did you know they did that? Like it was basically like an
I saw
episode that is
I
sort of
saw it
like
pop up on my queue. Yeah.
it's kind of like filling in during a time
The
where
seasons. Yeah.
this they well because I mean the two of them both had a pregnancy and then we had a lockdown, so I have a feeling that shooting more stuff for various reasons was difficult. Like, so I don't know if they're back in production, but I think they just did something to get something out, and the animation gave them a chance to, like, there's a thing that happens in the story where they become really insecure about things about their appearance that then suddenly become really exaggerated for the rest of the episode because of what they're going through internally. It's really weird animation. It's very like indie, like, very hand drawn. It looks very much like sort of limited in someone's particular style, but it has a kind of funky vibe that once you're into the episode, you kind of get into it. It took me a few minutes really to gel with the animation style, but the storyline is right out of the show. It feels a little bit heightened because it's animation, but it's more like just kind of a mega, it's like 38 minutes. So it's like a long episode of the show. But yeah, I mean, if you like Pin 15, I think you'd watch it and feel like it really upholds the standard. But it did make me think about, okay, now when they come back to film more episodes, aren't all the other kid actors going to be insanely aged looking? Because those kids are all like, that 13-14
Right.
zone,
Yeah.
unless they cast
Right.
kids that are like 16, 17 and look young, which might be the smart thing to do. These kids are all going to be, it's going to be like Stranger Things, except there's no excuse on Pin 15 to say the next season they look crazy different, because the premise is that period of life. So I don't know what they'll do with more episodes of that show, but this was a good workaround, and it actually got you to spend a little bit more time with Anna's dad and his midlife crisis. He's still in it, but he's not as I don't know. It's a good episode for his character, just the way that he deals with all the stuff that Anna and Maya get into, which, like I said, is very much in line with a solid episode of the show. And it's the heightenedness of the animation. Some of the stuff is really funny. You know how the awkward faces and things they do to entertain each other, the animators have a lot of fun making that stuff really bizarre. And I think that like just some of the like weird faces and stuff that like Maya in particular pulls a lot of funny faces to make her friend laugh on the show. Well, the drawings of her are absurd throughout the episode. So no, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm laughing just talking about it. So I guess I'm saying it's solid. If you like the show, and you notice it says it's season 2, episode 8, but it's really more like an animated special sort of thing.
Yeah.
They go on a beach trip.
Nice.
Check it out.
Nice.
Man.
What else? Anything else we want to drop in here?
Nothing for me. I talked about Warrior, so
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
I dipped back in and watched The Terror finally. I started the first season of The Terror years ago when that show came out, and I finished it. And now I'm into season 2 of The Terror. What a great show. I don't know. It's really solid horror. Like from beginning to end, the first season is this very well modulated. I mean, it's a little slow burnish, but it does have a lot going on in it. Some great characters, and I loved it. I loved the story. And the second season, I don't think it's quite as grabby for me, but it's still a really well done, like for a horror story. It's a nice, you get one of those anthology shows that's really well done, and it's cool what they can pull off in a 10 episode season. So I'm loving it.
Yeah, the first season of that is amazing. Like I like the second season quite a bit too, but yeah, the first one is just, I thought was really something special.
Man, Jared Harris,
like amazing, man.
Like if you love him, this is the role you're waiting to see him take on, because he gets to do it all in this.
Yeah. I feel like there was something else that I saw that I wanted to mention. I did catch up on the newest season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine finally.
Okay.
I had kind of fallen behind on that. I just love that show.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
it's very heartwarming.
I don't know, man. It's so good, and it's so simple, and it especially knowing that they kind of like wiped the season clean and like rewrote the whole season in light of a lot of the the police protests and Black Lives Matter, and like just a lot of social things that were going on. Like, how do we have a comedy show without addressing a lot of these things that are happening in the real world? And I think the way they do it on the season, I just think it really works. I think they really are able to talk about things as much as a sitcom can or does in most, TV settings that we have right now. And just being able to see these characters again and, spend time with them. And one of the more recent episodes with Jake and Craig Robinson, Doug Judy and him going like a little, if you watch the show, like, that these guys have a relationship, and that episode was, I think, something really special. I think the episode might be called PB&J, but it's just so funny. Like, I was dying during that episode, but I think the season's really good. It's kind of sad. Is this the last season, I think?
Yeah, they're wrapping it up.
What a bummer. There's only like 2 or 3 episodes left. I'm very curious to see. You definitely have that feeling now we're in the back half, like they are wrapping stories up, it feels like, or characters are kind of having moments that feel like kind of endings, which is, kind of sad, but I'm really happy to see the show again. And I will see it off into the sunset. But yeah, I think that was maybe the one I wanted to mention, finally getting caught up on that season.
Oh, I saw the Rick James. This is actually Showtime though. The Bitchin, the sound of Rick James.
Right.
Rick James is like one of those guys, man. Like, he was in a fucking group with Neil Young. I mean, like, do you get any more interesting than this guy? Like, he lived like a couple of different lives, and discovering his sound is probably one of the most interesting things I've ever heard. And between this and a companion piece to this feels like Matt Groening's. Is it Matt Groening?
Matt Groening?
No, that's not him. The animated music thing is it on Showtime as well? About the like music stuff. It's like a different stories told every episode. God, what is the name of that show? I'm sorry, man. I don't.
No, I might know what you're talking about, but I can't pull the name.
Oh, you're talking about the Mike Judge one.
The Mike Judge one. I apologize. The Mike Judge.
Right.
This feels like a companion piece to that. Like, if you've seen any of the, because it's like a kind of continual. This person came from this person who knew this person who knew this person, and you see the connective tissue that happens in music, and you realize that like some of the stuff was super separated, but you realize that there was a lot more intersectionality in music back then. It's a really cool documentary that kind of takes a weird turn at the end, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I need to check it out.
Yeah, Bitchin, the sound of Rick James. It's really entertaining. Did you see Cinderella?
Mm-mm.
I started to watch it the other night, and we kind of it just got too late. It wasn't because I wasn't into it, but we just ran out of time.
If I'm watching a trailer and I see a quick shot of James Corden doing this, I just decide I'm not going to watch the movie. I'm just like,
you're like, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out.
I'm seeing a swelling population of people that
have had it with James Corden.
Are done with him. They're like, and you're saying it. This is the nicest version of that I've heard.
Yeah.
A lot of people are just like damn near about to spit on the ground.
Yeah, I wish him well. I just don't need to see it. But also, I don't think I ever was that convinced. So I'm not like done with him. I just am like, I just don't think he adds that much that I enjoy. But I'm sure he could pop up in something and be likable, and I'd be fine with him. I don't have like an aversion. Yeah. I've like grown out of most of my aversions to actors and people. It's like. But I still can decide whether to see a movie based on a particular kind of thing. Yeah. And him doing that kind of thing, like I was just like, no, I don't need to see him doing his kind of halfway there funny guy shtick in the middle of a musical. But I know that he's got a voice. I don't know. He's just not my guy. He's just not my guy.
Yeah.
Not my guy.
My mom thinks it's very cute when he does the carpool karaoke thing. That might be his audience right now. I
kind of like the carpool karaoke. Do you think he could sing? Is the question.
I think that he thinks he can sing.
He thinks he could sing.
I think he enjoys singing, and we all should,
Yeah, that's all that matters is that he believes it. I guess that's what. That's half the battle is the confidence to. Yeah, I feel like he might be the Mark Wahlberg of like the last. Remember I used to
I
have this
love
like
this comparison because I'm trying really hard to
no
make
no
it
no.
work.
Remember I used to have this theory that like Mark Wahlberg kind of bullies his way into productions.
Yeah,
I
Right.
can't help but wonder if like James Corden's
I think he,
manager
but he hangs around and is like he would not be bullying. He would be sort of like
pestering.
a little bit, like
Yeah.
I'll do it. Hey, I'll do it.
Hey,
Hey, everyone, how's it going? He brings
you
over
need an
whatever that's
animated mouse? I could be
like.
an animated mouse.
He
I could
brings
do it.
coffee, right. Look, I did a cat and a mouse, and I've
I
done,
did it.
I sang
Damn you.
yesterday with Paul McCartney. Come on,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm the guy. Um, what if? Which, by the way, we call that show around my house. We call it "What's Now" because before the show started, Nikki said, "Are we going to watch that new animated shit? What's it called? What's Now?" not even what now, but what's now. So now Henry and I are constantly saying this show answers the question, what's now? But anyway, yeah, I saw the new What If today, and I actually thought that I would want to mention it because I thought it was a pretty solid effort in terms of animation, sweep, action, story. I thought the new one was pretty fun, and actually the Marvel zombie thing does represent like we've talked about how some of the episodes they succeed or fail based on whether it's a hook.
Yeah.
Like they've done a lot with that in the comics. I haven't read a lot of that stuff, but just the notion of what if zombies and the Marvel universe kind of overlapped. That's a good hook, and the storyline that they tell actually it feels like the Star-Lord episode in the sense that the characters that it involves and the kind of team that gets thrown together, it makes it an intriguing concept. It makes it feel like a legitimate, well, what if this happened? As opposed to just kind of well, this is different than what happened in the movies. So I don't know. I guess I kind of know what you thought of it, but also just where do you stand on What If at this point in the season after seeing a few more entries?
There's a term that the kids use. It's mid. This is mid. This is like
I thought you were going to say this ain't it.
This mid and this ain't it. Also it's a combination of the two. But I agree
this mid
with
it. This ain't mid. This we'll figure it out.
But I agree, man. Like of all the episodes, I say this is the most. So they could have actually benefited from like some retooling of the episode order. Like I feel like this could have been like a first episode to kind of make you feel like this is an extreme what if. Like what if a virus went around and infected all these people, and I thought that was a cool concept. Its execution mid, but it was fun. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Like the appearances from some of the characters, and I won't give it away because they actually haven't shown some of the appearances. So damn cool, man. And
the cool thing to do with that show is watch the names that come up in the credits, and you'll go, oh, they got so and so. Oh, they got so, even if it's just coming in for a second. But this one actually felt like it could be a movie. Not to say that they would do a movie that kills off this many characters, but this one felt like it had the sweep of a movie story, like the beginning, and again, like I said, the team of characters that gets thrown together, and like how long people survive and how they get picked off. Clearly, they were having fun with throwing the Marvel characters into the kind of meat grinder of a zombie structure where people just get mowed off, or mowed down throughout. I also thought last week's with Doctor Strange that I thought it was a legitimately dark story that they told, and when it works, it's amazing to me how cool the show looks, and then when it's not working, it's amazing how odd the show looks to me. It's a very strange animation style in that way, because about half the time I think it's honestly beautiful looking, but then sometimes the close-up shots, it's that squidgy thing of like, are you doing a cartoon animation full-on drawing style, or are you trying to follow like a photographic CGI map of like a 3D face, but no, I think the last two were like, the last one was dark and felt, oh, that's something they couldn't do in a movie. And this one is dark too, but it had that, wouldn't you say it was a pretty fun story for a story where everybody dies horribly? It was a pretty fun version of that.
I don't know if I had a kid that was like 6 or 7, I don't know if I'd show him What If.
Yeah. No.
There's like death in a way that like, what if really is like, what if a bunch of people died that you didn't expect to die?
And it gets kind of tossed off, it's not even like treated with any respect like it would be in the movies, right?
It's a little daunting. It can get really like, oh man, like that was crazy.
Kind of
I was-
nihilistic almost.
Yeah. So, but this doesn't feel like most of the movies I'd feel comfortable just showing to a kid. Like, hey, yeah, this Cap's gonna throw this thing around for a couple, for an hour or so. You'll enjoy this. But like, deaths are happening constantly in What If, and that is like a hard thing to explain to a little kid. Like, yeah, man, like his brains just got blown out because something landed on his head. It's like, what am I watching? But yeah, I thought this was, of all of them, the most fun. I thought this was the most fun episode. I enjoyed this one. I say that I enjoyed it.
So there you go.
Good.
What
anything? What's now?
What's now?
Nikki's gonna kill me that I mentioned this in public.
I think we should just make that the name of our news segment.
What's now?
Yeah.
What's now?
And now, Movie Schmovie will answer the question, what's now?
Also, the character played by Jeffrey Wright is just black in this episode.
Oh, I know.
They didn't even, he didn't even have like a mystic quality to him. He's just a black man in the sky in this episode.
It's funny. I'm glad you said that because I thought that shot. I was like, did they just draw him more like Jeffrey Wright in this scene than in others? But I also thought, mentioning the Watcher, the last episode, I really liked the way the Watcher had a little conversation with Doctor Strange. That was really cool because when the Watcher, like, it's one thing for the Watcher to say to the viewer, I can watch all this, but I'm not going to intervene. It's another thing for him to say to someone who's asking him for help, no, I'm not going to help you. You brought this on yourself. Like that. Yeah. That felt really dark. But yes, it was odd. It was an odd thing in the new one.
It's like they forgot it. He was Steve, he was just a big black man. He's like, hey, what's up? He's just bald. He was just bald and black. And it was just his head, and he's just like
kind of even going like like no. He was disappointed at that moment. I forget who it was that he was looking down at.
Yeah,
maybe it was nuts. All of them on the plane or whatever. But.
What a crazy episode.
Yeah.
So
gotta get caught up, man. I haven't seen the last two, so I have to watch them.
Yeah, let us know what you think.
All right, man. Well, yeah, like I think so. So Ronald, Malignant comes out today or the 10th in theaters, right?
Malignant comes out the 10th, and hopefully we'll have a full review. Because look,
next week
we're due for a horror film. Because let's be honest, Conjuring 3 was a little light on the scares, and I think that it'd be nice to see something that feels like a totally original idea from James Wan.
Have we heard anything about this one outside of the trailer?
Heard anything. I haven't seen any.
Steve, didn't you?
It's not.
Yeah.
No.
Well, you mentioned that it was like they weren't releasing it to critics, which is a bad sign always. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't releasing it to critics. There's no press. There's no links. There's nothing. If you think about it, there really hasn't been any press for it. Like very little people, interviews, features, and a couple of people that I know like that are in publicity. And one of the podcast journalists I listen to, he's made a couple comments about people that he knows who has seen it, who have been to the test screenings for it, and that it's very bad. I'm gonna watch it this weekend though, so I'm still very much looking forward to just giving it a shot. But I think the doesn't look good.
It's malodorous.
That works. Yeah, there's like nothing. I don't think there's like no reviews anywhere.
You got me, John.
I'm always glad to do that, Ronald.
I couldn't hide it either. Sometimes you'll say something that's funny, and I'm like, I want to fight this off. That was.
Well, that would be like the Variety headline, right? Like if it's a stinker and if it doesn't make any money, malodorous,
Or you can use like, British use a lot of alliteration in their headlines. So melodious, smooth, and maleficent. I mean, not maleficent. Anyway,
Malignant.
Well,
We'll see. I was just like looking on Rotten Tomatoes if there's any reviews that broke for it yet, and there's nothing.
That's strange.
Which is nothing is not good at all. But just to kind of come full circle here at the end of the podcast, I just saw the update for the Shang-Chi Rotten Tomatoes. 92% critic, 98% audience score.
Wow.
It's never been that close.
That is insane.
That is insane.
It's not getting review bombed, or like
that's what I was saying to Aaron the other day. I was like, I'm surprised that like the DC crew or whoever, would do something like that, or just these assholes, going in there just destroying the movie. But yeah, man, I think didn't they put something in place with those audience scores where they have to like verify that they actually bought a ticket or something like that?
Yeah, there was something. Yeah.
There's something through like Fandango. It's tied in there now where you have to verify you actually bought a ticket to see the movie. So I think maybe that's been helping a lot.
Thank goodness, man.
Yeah, maybe I'll try to get out and see that before we record next week, maybe. Oh, real quick before we wrap up, I did go to the movies this last week. I did see the new Ryan Reynolds comedy Free Guy.
Oh yeah.
And I did want to say that I kind of really enjoyed it.
Really?
I just like the idea of an original movie that's not based on something.
Yeah.
I really like Ryan Reynolds. I like Joe Keery. I like the Laurel's in it. Like I just like everybody that's in this movie. I think some of the special effects stuff is really amazing. I feel like if you're a gamer, you probably would like it even more, than somebody like myself who's really not a gamer. But even not being it, there's enough there to really just be super into it. And I just feel like in general, it's a very entertaining, fun movie. And there's some really great cameos in it, and there's some really great moments that kind of tie in some other IP that lives in the Fox Disney world.
Really?
That just like goes over like gangbusters. And I think the last like 15-20 minutes of the movie is some of the most fun I've had in the theater in the last, or watching movies at all, like basically since the last year or two, whatever, pandemic times and post Endgame. But it just has a really great ending, like a really great final act. And I can see why it's doing so well. I can see why it's dropping barely 30% week over week, and it's going to cross 100 million. And they've already said they're going to do a sequel to it. Sean Levy, I think, did a great job directing it. And I don't know, the movie really works. And that's the one I couldn't remember earlier that I wanted to mention that I did check out, and I did like it quite a bit. So yeah, Free Guy, that's still in theaters. And that's one of those ones that I don't know what the theatrical window is. I think it might be a standard. I don't know if it's a 45-day or 90-day. I think you'd mentioned, Ronald, that it was coming out on VOD or something, or DVD or Blu-ray or something in October, right?
Yeah, they had this like
some pre-order or something.
The October, like mid-October, like the 15th or 16th or something like that. So
I don't know. That would be over 45 days, I guess. But I don't know. Maybe it's 45 days. I don't know. But it is in theaters still. It's out there and it's doing pretty well. And like I said, if you want just like an entertaining comedy in theaters, and I do think it's weird because it's like a comedy, but it's got a lot of action in it. But it does really play well on a big screen. Like the special effects and like the world building that they're doing inside of this game is really great. And I can't not mention Taika is in it as well as the bad guy, which is just a check in a box for me. So
of course,
it's all there for me. So I thought Free Guy was a lot of fun. Definitely recommend that. But yeah, that's it. That's the one.
Wow.
Let's see. That's gonna be it, man. We'll wrap this up. Movieschmovie.com is the website. You can check out all the past episodes of the podcast there. Where you have the other social media pages, all.com/movieschmovie, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. We're not on TikTok yet. Maybe we should be. I don't know. Maybe we should do something there. That's where all the people are now, it seems. We could do like a Mighty Minute review series on TikTok. We'll talk about that all.
Do we have to be dancing or something to make that work?
No, we don't. I mean, you dance. Ron and I will just review the movie, and you just do that in the background. That's it. Look, that's like 1 million followers right there.
1 million.
And we're giving it away. We're doing nothing with it right now.
Just gave it away, yeah.
But maybe we'll look into that. But yeah, anyway, the site, movieschmovie.com. If you do subscribe to the podcast, wherever you're subscribing, whatever podcast app you prefer to use, if there's an option to review or rate the podcast, please do that. Or hit the little share button and send it to a friend. or a family member or a fellow podcaster or somebody who just talks about movies with you from time to time, because we'd like to be a part of the conversation. We'll be back next week, talk about Malignant, talk about maybe the Matrix trailer, hopefully.
Yeah.
And some other things. But it's good to see you guys.
Yes.
You're both healthy, happy, and hope that continues into the weekend, into next week. Yeah, until next time, you've made our day. And I'm speaking to you two, actually, like you guys,
thanks,
you two.
man.
Yeah,
I
man.
appreciate it.
Well, likewise.
All right, all right guys.
What's now?
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
See you.